Hello everyone. Well, thank you for taking the time to join us for this webinar, and I'd like to just share with you, as Katik mentioned, some of our observations that we have made working with the food industry more broadly with energetics over the last 25 years, and more specifically with me over the last couple of years, 3 to 5 years that I've been working in and around the food sector. And I'd like to just share with you some of the motivations of food manufacturers to invest in energy efficiency, and in the form of capital or in the form of effort, because a lot of energy efficiency, as you no doubt are already aware, is made up of good housekeeping and some subtle changes to your operating practices. So there is certainly gains to be made without necessarily investing a lot of cash, but no doubt it's either cash or effort that's required to achieve savings. So some of the motivating reasons are listed here, and you can see them on your screen. Cost is an obvious one, and I'm sure you're very familiar with the cost. I'll just very briefly mention that electricity, of course, over the last 3 to 5 years in most states has doubled in costs. I'm sure you've experienced that, particularly the use costs, and also network charges, which have been certainly on the rise over the last 3 to 5 years. We're seeing signs of that price rises beginning to soften, and while I very much doubt the price will come down, it's certainly the degree of increases is certainly going to soften, particularly on the East Coast, as demand has dropped off, and we understand that demand's dropping off by at least a third of that demand reduction is coming from the adoption of solar energy, and other reductions are based on a number of factors, such as previous investment in infrastructure and other energy efficiency initiatives, and to a certain extent some of the more energy intensive industries perhaps even moving offshore, and some of those have certainly been in the papers recently. Competitiveness is a perennial challenge, I know, for the food sector, and pricing against imports is the name of the game for many, particularly those who are sensitive to imported products. And we know that energy efficiency gains can lead to a direct impact on your margins, and so your ability to price accordingly is very much impacted by your energy efficiency, your investment in energy efficiency. Compliance, we're seeing some of the thresholds for some programs, such as the Energy Efficiency Opportunities Act, coming down into medium-sized businesses. And of course, there are other compliance issues, perhaps even around environmental compliance, which energy efficiency can support. And we're also seeing, in terms of compliance, not only the challenges, the risks around non-compliance, but also opportunities that can come with complementary funding. And if indeed you are an organisation that meets the criteria of either state-based funds that are available or federal funding, then there are opportunities there for you to perhaps retool, refit, at a much reduced price, given some of the money that's been available via these governments. The fifth reason is community expectation, and certainly brand reputation is one that I know many of our clients have been talking about, and I'm sure you're very aware of. And indeed, our case example from the coffee sector, you'll hear about that in that upcoming case example on brand. And Rick Davies from TD Coffees will share with you some of his drivers around his investment in energy efficiency. Customer supply chain pressures, cost to plate. So no doubt some of you have received requests from your retail customers asking for information about energy efficiency and perhaps your carbon footprint and broader sustainability questions. And a couple of CEOs that I've spoken to have been very, shall we say, buoyed by the fact that they've undertaken recent energy efficiency initiatives and been able to respond very quickly to their retail customers with a very positive story, which does help in a very small way. No doubt it's not the main game, but it can help in a small way to strengthen a relationship between your good selves and your retail customers. Consumer behaviours, recent behaviour surveys that have been conducted by some of the retailers that we work with have indicated that the green differentiation or the green buying behaviours are on the increase and have lifted from around the sort of number 5, number 6 critical criteria for purchasing up into sort of number 3, number 4 in many cases, and energy efficiency can certainly support your green green labels, including carbon neutral, which is often achieved not only by buying green power but also by investing in energy efficiency and energy conservation measures. The 8th is continuity of energy supply, and that's certainly a big driver for remote and regional Australia, where blackouts, brownouts and the quality of that energy may be questionable from time to time. And certainly the capacity limits put a strain on your business plans, where you may be indeed looking for opportunities to expand your cold storage, is a common one, of course, or even putting on an additional production line or whatever the case may be, or going to double shifts, for example, where again you might be looking for greater capacity. So there are a number of the drivers that support companies investing and taking the time and putting a bit of their capital into energy management. I'd like for you to consider perhaps what your top 2 business drivers are for better energy management. So you might like to now take our poll, and if you look on your screen, you'll see the instructions for taking the poll. Tick your top 2 business drivers, and perhaps think beyond cost if you can, and let us know what are the reasons for investing, that you might invest in energy management. Now let's move on to how you might respond to some of those business drivers for investing in energy management. And there's a really good little diagnostic tool that we use, which you can see on your screen now, which helps companies to actually assess whether or not they're prepared or ready or able or capable to respond to these drivers. And certainly if your business is in denial that there are energy increases, that you can do anything about it. I mean, one of the classic examples when I talk to site managers and in particular CEOs is that we've been monitoring the costs of electricity or our gas bills, but really there's not much we can do about it. We've treated our energy and electricity invoices as a fixed cost, and not really believing that they can do much or that they have much control. And of course that's, if you like, being in a bit of a denial state or not being aware of the opportunities that exist, or perhaps not just being able to access the tools and information to help them recognise those opportunities. And that's where the Empower program, the AFGC's Empower program, can help those businesses who really are treating their electricity and gas prices at the moment as a fixed cost rather than as a variable cost, one that they can actually, if you like, better align with your production. The next level of maturity, if you like, is the compliant level, and that's where, of course, you're doing your minimum to meet either your customers' requirements, or you're doing just that enough to satisfy some kind of government program, or you are occasionally getting access to an audit, perhaps, and you're beginning to react to those audits from time to time. And that reactive level is where you might have got subsidised or free audit. You've got an audit report, and then you think, oh yeah, there's something we can do here. Let's go around and change our lighting, or let's go fix our air compressor leaks, whatever the opportunity might be. And then you sort of leave it, and 12 months, 18 months goes past, and unfortunately some of those savings begin to deteriorate, or in fact there are other savings that have been ignored. So you're in a fairly reactive state. And that requires attention if you're going to really get the benefits. And the benefits we're talking about in terms of energy efficiency you should be really aiming for 10 to 15% energy reduction, energy cost reduction, that is, as a result of not only commissioning an audit, but implementing the recommendations. And if, of course, you do have systems in place to routinely look at your energy use, to monitor your energy use, to break up that energy use according to your major processes, whether it be blanching or cooking or cooling or whatever the case may be, you're breaking that down, you're examining that energy use against production, perhaps even looking at it per product or per tonne of product or kilogram of product, whatever the case may be, then you might be considered to be in that sort of proactive state and taking advantage of funding and other opportunities. The final stage on this model is the innovator model, and where you're actually seeking out R&D funds to explore opportunities potentially for perhaps cogeneration or perhaps changing your energy source, exploring with renewables, looking at you might use your waste, or in fact even on a regional level, if not at a site level. So you would be considered to be a business that's at that innovation stage, and therefore very shall we say, attuned or mindful of research and the benefits that research can bring in terms of implementing energy efficiency opportunities. So what level of response or energy management maturity do you think your business is typically operating at the moment? How responsive might you be to the energy efficiency opportunities that are available and to the drivers that will help support your business case for investing in energy efficiency? Just take a moment now to respond to our poll. Now, as I mentioned, if you were at that stage where you're being quite proactive and you're monitoring your energy use and reviewing your energy use, then you're likely to be looking at your metadata, and this sort of data that you're looking at the moment is available from your energy retailer, and particularly if you've got an energy bill, sort of more than $30,000 or $40,000 a year, you certainly should be. You're probably paying for access to this data, and hopefully you're using it, because it can give you some really good insights. You can see in this graph that there is a peak demand KVA, and that's happening on a particular day, and that could be as a result of some startup procedures, people coming on site, walking in and switching everything on at once. It could be because you have no particular soft starts on your motors, for example, and that lack of variability means that these motors are working hard immediately and demanding a lot of power to do that. So it's a good idea to use this data to look at ideas where you might be able to change your practices. And as I mentioned previously, a change in practice could lead to a reduction in your peak load. And of course, for some of you, not all perhaps, but for some of you who are paying for that a demand charge, and you can see that on your bill, then there's a good opportunity to be able to negotiate a lower demand, lower peak load, and that could lead to immediate savings. The high energy use on weekends you'll see there as well, and that's of course not just weekends, but any out of hours period. You can see there that there is the potential for equipment to be left running, and that's of course just energy waste, and that's costing your business. And there's an opportunity there by looking at these charts and saying, right, let's go and have a look. Why are we using that amount of kilowatts? Should we be using that sort of kilowatts? Matching it up and deciding whether or not you need to switch a few more things off. It could also be just other practices that people are using in terms of maintenance, etc., cleaning, and there may be opportunities there to change those practices. So that kind of analysis is really, again, very, very low cost and can lead to some interesting opportunities. Some of the other opportunities that are typically found in the food manufacturing sector are mentioned here on the screen. We'll be going into detail into some of these in subsequent webinars. So I'm not going to go into those in detail, but you can see the type of list. If you might be able to tick those off very quickly, have you done those things? And if you have, then you can sort of eliminate those that are already done and start to focus on the next steps. And you can see the typical sort of savings from the work that we've done across the sector, the typical savings that are achieved at plant level. So you're talking about pretty substantial savings there, and certainly compressed air leaks. One of the businesses that I've been working with has actually brought up an incentive program with their staff so that they actually receive, by identifying and fixing relatively small air leaks, they're actually handing out movie passes and all sorts of little rewards for people who are doing that, and they're seeing that, of course, on their data. They're seeing the benefits of initiating those kinds of programs. So it can be done, and it's certainly some good stories about what businesses are doing, not only in the food sector but other sectors. And the other opportunities are listed on this additional slide. You can see the complexity there, from improving the combustion of steam boilers, which could be a little bit complex, require some trials, for example. But then there could be some relatively straightforward opportunities which provide substantial savings, such as installing solar hot water systems, which, from an engineering point of view, typically aren't that challenging, and certainly from the point of view of quantifying savings is a relatively straightforward exercise. So there's some opportunities that you can look at in implementing in your own business, and no doubt there are typical hurdles that you will find along the way, and we've mentioned a few here. One is, of course, around that culture. So if you're wanting people to change behaviour, such as the practices I mentioned earlier on weekends, or switching things off, or changing their startups and shutdown procedures, then you really need to provide permission for people to do that, and that may require things like a policy, a target, reward systems, as I mentioned earlier, or good behaviour modelling by the leadership team, so that you're starting to provide people with permission to look at energy efficiency and link that to their operating practices. The other is no access to capital. So, sure, bit of a challenge there. We're all a bit challenged with that, but exacerbated by poor business cases. So the quantification of opportunities. And one of the things that the Empower program, AFGC's Empower program, will do for you is help you put some simple paybacks around some of these opportunities. And then, of course, provide ongoing assistance to help you develop a stronger business case. So I'd certainly suggest the Empower program is a good place to start to help you with that hurdle. And finally, the more obvious one that the Empower program will assist you with is a lack of reliable information. And all the information that you can find on the Empower program has been checked and is considered to be from a credible source from the industry's perspective. And we're certainly interested. I know that the AFGC is very interested in getting your feedback, and if there was any question around the reliability of information, certainly be interested in responding to